Miss Michelle Oberholtz could be Seabiscuit. Where are you at, Michelle?
Hi guys, how exciting. Okay. I grew up in the small town of Chelsea, Michigan. And when I went to college, I had the chance to attend the University of Michigan, only 15 miles away. What that means is that for the first couple decades of my life, my world was pretty narrow, geographically speaking. But when I was in college, I met my future husband, and he changed all of that. Together, we've traveled to 5 continents, over a dozen countries. We've lived in Australia, South Africa, and France. My whole world expanded. Even so, I was reluctant when he told me that he wanted us to move to New York City. I kind of had a Midwestern view of a typical New Yorker, and it wasn't very flattering. I figured that New Yorkers thought that they lived in the center of the universe, and I didn't care to reinforce their self-importance by living there myself. But open-minded person that I aspired to be, worldly person that I was becoming, I decided, yes, let's give it a shot. And we moved there for a summer. Predictably, perhaps in retrospect, I fell in love with it, and we moved there full time. For a couple of years, we lived in New York City in the middle of Manhattan. I became a New Yorker, one of those people that I had so harshly judged previously. And then about a year ago, suddenly, sadly, my marriage ended. I moved out of the apartment that we shared together and never moved back. And I was faced with the decision of where to go next. The whole world was open to me. I spent the past year packing all my belongings in the back of a single cab, moving month after month across New York's endless neighborhoods, trying to find a place that fit. And it was on a sunny Saturday morning this past June that I woke up from wherever it was I was living at the time with a clarity of purpose that was entirely unfamiliar to me. My life in that moment was such that I could excuse myself from it. I could step away, and nothing would come crashing down. My job was the most important thing to me at that point, and I knew that if I left, I could get it back if I wanted to. I wasn't in a relationship, I didn't have a lease, and I hardly had any stuff. This was my moment. And those were all the reasons why it would be all right if I left, to say nothing of why I really, really needed to. I still cherished all those memories of the travels my husband and I had together, but those were things that we had done, and that we no longer existed. I needed something of my own, so that no matter who I ended up with, no matter what I did later, I could hold that up and be proud of it. So 1 month later, my parents dropped me off on the side of the road. In those frantic weeks, I had left everything behind in New York and more or less prepared for what I was about to do. What I did was to walk. For 6 weeks, I walked across 700 miles of northern Michigan by myself. It was an incredible experience. It was exactly what I needed. And afterward, I was once again faced with the decision of where to go next. Even more so than before, I was entirely unfettered. I could go anywhere. And so it came as a surprise to most people who know me when I chose to settle back here in Michigan. I had always planned to come back eventually, but it seemed like the kind of thing I would do after I had exhausted all my other options. And now I realize that no matter how many places I travel, the perfect place isn't going to be sitting there waiting for me. I have to create it for myself. And while there may be more exotic places out there, more beautiful, of course, only one of them is my home, and that trumps. Coming home means putting down that endless question of, what if there's something better out there? It means accepting that the known is good enough, perhaps even greater than the unknown. I think of it this way. Each place is somebody's hometown. Each person is somebody's ex. What's new is not always better. What's old is not always less. Thank you.
Michelle, everybody.